SBA EIDL Loan Increased Reconsideration Alternative up to $5 million plus. Hurry in, you'll want to see what this program is. And I'm going to cover so much in this video. But first, my name is Michael from Viral Funding Solutions, and I come out with content like this on all EIDL loans, PPP, grants, private loans, different opportunities for you to take advantage of to continue to help you build, grow, expand, and even get out of a tight pinch. Today, I'm going to focus on what you can do outside of getting approved for a reconsideration, just the first increase. Perhaps you didn't get anything at all. You've been shut down for reconsideration. You didn't even get the initial amount. This video will show you what that alternative loan program through the SBA is all about. But if you would like to see specifically what is happening with the loan increases and so forth, I'll leave more information on that down below in the description. But before you go anywhere, if you haven't been seeing my recent videos and content, I've been speaking about how those individuals who were stuck in the queue when the SBA said that the funds were completely depleted, gone, zero, that meant that everybody stuck in that queue was pretty much disqualified. They weren't even going to be giving them a look, a second look, etc. But recently it has opened up again for those who have already requested an increase, are in the queue when those funds were depleted. So those will be getting another look going forward. But this video is going to show you what that alternative program is, and it is called the SBA 7A program. So let me shift over here to go through what this entails. Now, this is an SBA related program that many individuals may already know about. You may already know about this one. And it's its most common loan program, which includes financial help for businesses with special requirements. So I have the SBA documents I'm going to want to go through here, as well as other tabs open that I'll be going through to the rest of this video. So please stick with me until the very end, because you're going to get some juicy details, some bonus tips on eligibility outside of SBA 7A loans and so forth. And you want to make sure that you fully qualify. You don't just want to look at this and say, great, sounds good. What can I go do to apply? It's not like that. You have to take the time to watch this video. It's very important you do. I've helped out people of all industries, all walks of life, backgrounds. I've seen what happens in each and every situation, whether you're looking for money for growth and expansion, survival money, just trying to make it through, survive completely, you're in complete debt, and so forth. And what should you do? What do those services look like? I'll leave more information of those down below in the description as well. So let's get through this right here. What is a 7A loan? The 7A loan program, it's SBA's most common loan program, as mentioned. It includes financial help for small businesses with special requirements. This is the best option when real estate is part of a business purchase, but it can also be used for short and long-term working capital, refinance current business debt you may be finding yourself in, or perhaps will be in more of it in the future, purchase furniture, fixtures, and supplies. The maximum loan amount for SBA 7A is $5 million. Key eligibility factors are based on what the business does to receive its income, its credit history, and where the business operates. Your lender will help you figure out which type of loan is best suited for your needs. Before I move any further, I want to say this. This is not the only program available. Just because you've been hearing a lot of buzz, well, I didn't get an increase, I got reconsidered, didn't get processed, or I did get something, I didn't get the initial amount, so this should help me, right? This would be the next logical step for me to take, and I should automatically be qualified for whatever use of funds I'm trying to get for. Not exactly. So you have to keep tuning into this. And I've already made other content on the SBA 7A loan /504/CDC loan, and many others that I'll link to you down below in the description, so you can go ahead and take a further look as well. And also keep in mind that when they say credit history is very important, this is the key determinant factor, what I've seen across all boards. Let's reverse engineer this. So you have to really understand your use of funds. What are you getting that money using for? They really want to loan to people who have growth and expansion. And they can loan to quote unquote survival purposes, but that won't be the primary function or the primary needs. It's unlike the EIDL loan, where strictly it was based on if you were impacted by COVID-19, if you've been through stress, hard hit areas, and also due to the pandemic, they were loaning out money towards those reasons and many more: payroll, business expenses, debt, etc. Now, when you're looking at a 7A loan, perhaps you can factor that into the equation, but you also want to look at, are you in a growth or expansion setup? If not, this would be hard to justify it, because I get a lot of people who come in here, and I'll talk on the credit history in just a second, but they're doing like, they have millions of debt, 300,000, even 50,000, 60,000, 80,000. And they come to me and they say, well, I need to get a loan. I didn't get considered for the EIDL, or I got enough, but I just didn't get the second amount, or I need more. I need it now. I can't wait 6 months. I can't come back and get more over time through these private loans. Can you please help me? And I look through the funding details, and it shows me a lot. Your revenue is doing this. Your use of funds is going to be for debt that you have in this surplus amount of it stuck in. And that's what it primarily will be used towards. You may think you have something for growth and expansion, or you may not. But you're saying, I'm trying to just get my business expenses taken care of, and I'm just trying to fix all of that. And it can be very difficult to qualify for, just based on the amount of debt to income ratio you have. And that'll factor into the credit history. How much debt have you taken on? And what situation are you in? Are you paying your bills on time? Are you not? If you're already struggling with all of this, we're going to see that in your credit history. And that's what it comes to in a lot of these files, where I'll talk about the revenue requirements, the time of business, FICO score, and so forth. But what it comes down to a lot of is your credit history. There's a lack of sufficient payment history, data on the reports, not enough reporting on your consumer reports and so forth, and what we're looking at. And I'll get into some of the business liquid credit in a moment. But you're not making your payments on time. Well, it's because I'm struggling to do. It's just, if we see that, a lot of you can get scrutinized going through an SBA 7A loan. So I don't always recommend this program. Yes, it is there, and I'll get into some of what those alternatives may be. But before I move any further, if this is the first time you're coming across me, or maybe you've done it multiple times, I have this free questionnaire that I'll link to you down below in the description, where you can complete the questionnaire form to get a personalized and customized email response for your best funding option and options. Plus, you'll get a free 6-step pre-approval lending checklist to get you approved for funding much faster. It'll look like this, more or less. You can literally get done with this in less than 30 seconds if you have it all there. I am not a creditor, so when it's asking for your credit, the more precise is better. You can put a range, but precise, because I will then analyze, evaluate this once it comes into my email, and then I will give you a proper response back. I'll show you an introduction, qualifications, how it works, the numbers, bonus tips and bonus material, a conclusion. It's very thorough. It's very in-depth. You're going to want to go through it. And even if you don't qualify for an SBA 7A loan, there are other options available on the table. There's a little bit about us. Some of the services I offer a lot more. I just put a limited amount there just to keep it short. And then the key benefits, how it works, more or less what I have already explained. So that'll be linked for you down below in the description. Now let's continue forward. The maximum, again, 5 million. Key eligibility factors, you just saw that. Income-wise, you generally want to be doing around 400,000 and above to get from somewhere like 20 or 30,000 to about 350,000, or 25,000 to about 350K. And you're doing 400,000 in annual revenue, gross sales revenue. And there are other ways where it would require you to have 500,000 and above yearly. And I'll get into some of that in a moment. So credit history is really a big determinant factor when I speak to a lot of individuals who do end up qualifying at a face value. But there's another section of those who won't qualify and won't even get to that part. And where the business operates. Are you eligible? Operate for profit, be considered a small business as defined by the SBA, be engaged in or propose to do business in the United States or its possessions, have reasonable invested equity. That's what they would look at a lot. Collateral is a big factor as well when you're getting over a certain amount, over 25, over 35,000, etc. When you're meeting that, they're going to want to see some type of equity in the properties, collateral, real estate, commercial. What do you have going on? Equipment, high value equipment. What is the market speaking to towards that equipment? Because certain people, certain lenders won't offer you a loan if you have everything except that the equity is not there, the collateral. What are they supposed to do with this? They're not sure about how they can flip this in the case of a default or whatever ends up happening, how much they can get guaranteed up to, etc., which I'll cover in a moment. Use alternative financial resources, including your personal assets, if any, before seeking financial assistance, be able to demonstrate a need for the loan. And what I mean for that is they usually like to look at files that have tried other routes. So if you've tried going through traditional banking solutions, something isn't working there for you, there are online bank term loan solutions as well, online lines of credits through the banks. There are private loans. So in a sense, they want to see that you've also tried these other ways. And if those didn't work, then it's a big indication that these will not in a lot of cases. So I have a lot of people who still reach out to me and go, well, I have this amount of collateral and equity, and I have, but it all comes down to a lot of the parts in the underwriting process. Like I mentioned earlier, one of those huge ones being the credit history. And then I'll get into like banking activity that may be more so related to private loans in a way to this as well. So use alternative financial resources, as I mentioned, be able to demonstrate a need for your loan, use the funds for a sound business purpose. Again, they're looking at it from a growth and expansion point of view as well, not just primarily all being used for survival money. You're not even getting there yet. Not be delinquent or any existing debt obligations to the U.S. government. So speaking about debt, that's where it's coming from. Some business may not qualify. I'll go into the terms and conditions and eligibility in a moment. And again, all of this will be down below in the description. I'll even try to leave a little SBA quiz down below so you can get started. But the best way to get a hold of me is to fill out that questionnaire if you have not, because I will then be able to see at face value what can work. A lot of people will still go out of their way to email me, which is fine. But I may in that email then say, hey, can you fill out this questionnaire form? Because I need to see the funding details at face value, because I can get people a ballpark range and I can show you what you possibly qualify for. So basic uses, long and short-term working capital, revolving funds based on the value of existing inventory and receivables, the purchase of equipment, machinery, furniture, fixture, supplies, or materials, the purchase of real estate, including land and buildings, the construction of a new building or renovation an existing building, establishing a new business or assisting in the acquisition, operation, or expansion of an existing business, refinancing existing business debt under certain conditions. So back up here, I have had a lot of people coming in trying to get an SBA loan through the 7A for specific reasons. It may be purchasing an existing business. You need to hire more employees and you need to hire a load of them. You have a new warehouse and you're like, well, this is going to take some time and I'm going to need this amount and so forth, and monthly repayment with the terms of 25 plus years and so forth, which doesn't end up working. You can get somewhere between 5 to 25-year term loans, but for working capital purposes, you're looking up to about 7 years, if not 10 years, 10 years usually being equipment. So don't expect this gargantuan amount of time. Usually that's for the real estate side of the equation. So what do you need to apply? When you're ready, you will need to gather a certain amount of documents. And I've had a lot of people sending me their docs, and I'll get into what that entails. So what you would need: borrow information, complete the SBA Form 1919 and submit to an SBA participating lender. I can help you with this. So again, fill out that questionnaire just so you can know if you truly do qualify for this and what are some other options on the table for faster funding. You don't have to supply this type of documentation. It has to be scrutinized. You don't have to go through a hard credit check, because that's what the SBA 7A will do through the underwriting process and so forth, to do thorough investigation. Complete both SBA Form 912, Statement of Personal History, and SBA Form 413, Personal Financial Statement. These help the SBA and other stakeholders assess your eligibility. Business financial statements, submit the following: profit and loss, very common. current within the 180 days of your application. Also include supplementary schedules from the last 3 fiscal years. Projected financial statements include a detailed 1-year projection of income and finances and explain how you expect to achieve this projection. Very big. They want to see if we're giving Sally here $350,000, we're giving John here $3 million and they qualified, or even if they don't, not only what are they using these funds for, but what would be your return on investment in the immediate, middle, and long-term future? How will this greatly impact your business or businesses? How this funding is being applied? They want to know so much more than just that. And there's a lot that goes into subsets of the projected financial statements that I won't get into in this video. Ownership and affiliations. Provide a list of names and addresses of any subsidiaries and affiliates, including concerns in which you hold a controlling interest or that or otherwise connected to you. Business license or certificate. Provide a copy of the original business license or certificate of doing business. If your small business is a corporation, stamp your corporate seal on the SBA loan application form. Loan application history. Include records of any loans you may have applied for in the past. Like I said earlier, they want to see if anything, and they want to see that kind of demonstration. It doesn't always have to be the case, specifically if you have a very strong profile. And a lot of it, like I said, comes down to the credit. So you may have very strong revenue, time in business, and so forth, but you're not just your score, but everything that can allow you to get more funding and allow you to get approved much more faster and easier. So resumes include personal resumes for each principal, business owner overview and history, provide a history of the business and its challenges, include an explanation of why you need the SBA loan and how it will help your business. It's not enough to just say, but I couldn't get considered for an EIDL loan and the primary use of funds will be to pay off $500,000 in debt and that's it. Or it's just for, I'm just trying to survive or else I'm going to close my doors in the next 2 months. I have other video content that I've talked about with like SBA Microloans, so you may want to check that out for startups and newly established businesses where you can get up to $50,000, as well as other alternatives I'll leave down below for startups. So business lease, including a copy of your business lease or note from your landlord with the terms of the proposed lease. That's what we're talking about, the real estate part. You can get more in terms. If you're buying an existing business, you need to gather the following information: current balance sheet and profit and loss statement, federal income tax returns for the previous 3 years, a proposed bill of sale including the terms of sale, asking price with schedule of inventory, machinery and equipment and furniture and fixtures, franchise, job or licensing agreements, proof of equity injection. That's a big one that gets a lot of people, is like, I'm looking for an existing business, to purchase an existing business. It's one thing that you don't have the requirements. It's a whole other thing when you do and you don't have proof of equity injection. You can't go any other route. It's really difficult. There are actually other routes to go through, like a personal loan that can be used for business, a merchant cash advance / revenue-based loan, and more so like lines of credits. But I won't get too specific about the purchase of an existing business and how to apply all that. I made specific videos for that down below in the description that you can go ahead and check out. But when you can't go through this, it becomes very difficult, because we would then have to look at possibly a cash out refinancing situation that you may not even be eligible for, offering high value commercial real estate, a real estate investment property to get you the funds. And then we still have to look at the loan to value, go through an appraisal with lenders and so forth. And at the end of the day, it might not be sufficient enough at the bottom of the minimum we're asking for that property. And it would be quite difficult for you to qualify. So there are other alternatives. But one thing that I want to mention, if you are in that situation, and we're basing it off not with like the SBA looks at it, it's primarily being, the SBA does all three: collateral, cash flow, and credit. If we go through an alternative where we're looking at just revenue with these term loans, these revenue-based loans / merchant cash advances, perhaps a line of credit, because the SBA 7A couldn't qualify you, then you have to be careful about what you're doing with your banking activity. So I put a little document here that I want to read through, and I have it here on my phone, and then we'll proceed forward. Or I may just cover it a little bit. Yeah, I'm actually going to cover it a little bit and make a separate video for it. But if we're just basically evaluating your bank statements, yes, we're looking at credits, but not as in depth. your cash flow is most important to us. Projections revenue-wise going up is much better. But if you are an individual who has multiple banking accounts and you're transferring between each and every one of them, that doesn't usually count as deposits. It doesn't count as revenue. Let's say, for example, you have a personal account, you're depositing into a business account. That doesn't state as revenue in your bank statements. That doesn't look like what's happening. You have to deposit directly into your business checking account and have one account where you're putting in those sales. It's very important you have that. You may have multiple business checking accounts and the activity you're moving around is just not sufficient enough for moving from one account to another one. The way you're depositing, the way you're crediting, debiting, and this and so forth, it just looks like to the lender that you're manipulating bank statements. So it can be very difficult to qualify for funding in that sense, in that regard. And so I speak to a lot of business owners and I tell them the priority of making sure, I know you may have multiple business checking accounts, for one for payroll, one for equipment, and I have one primarily that I'm putting here, and we can look at more than one, but we want to look at a primary file where you're making those sales and so forth, and you're depositing it into that main business check, that one main business checking account. Because if you're starting to transfer funds, transferring funds does not ultimately show up as deposits. Thus, it shows as lower revenue, where you may be saying you're doing this amount of funded money and you're doing $50,000 a month, but what you're doing is you're transferring funds. And to us, and you may not be doing this exactly, but you're manipulating bank statements as what the lenders see, and rightfully so, because everything should be going into one account that then when you go and apply, we look at it and say, yeah, these are deposits. They're not transferred from different accounts, multiple business banking accounts, and so forth. But I won't get into the specifics of all of that in this video. There will be more that I will try to have down below. If not, it'll be there in time. So it's very important, and that can disqualify a lot of people from getting funding. And it's a whole nother thing that when we look at cash flow, primarily, you don't have fluctuations, insufficient deposits on a monthly basis. If we looked at your last 90 days, 3 months of bank statements for 90 days or so, depending on who you go to, and you have only one deposit per month, then you have 3 deposits, and then you have 1 deposit again or 2 deposits, that is infrequent. You have to at least have 3+, if not 5+ deposits going in, so it reflects on your business bank statements. The fluctuations does not help your case. And again, don't transfer, have sufficient frequent deposits going into that main business checking account that we will look at. And that is a lot of this can go into this and go into a lot of the alternative lending programs and so forth. So how do you pay back your SBA 7A loan? Most SBA 7A loan terms are prepaid with monthly payments of principal and interest. So interest can accumulate over time. So you have to think about it. Perhaps you're paying a low monthly repayment as opposed to these private loans, but you have it for how long? 5 years, 2 to 5 years, 3 years you got qualified for, as opposed to taking something much less, where let's say you qualified for 18 months, 15 months, 12 months, you're getting into those terms. However, you may be paying a little bit higher per daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You just have to think about it. Do you want to be in more debt? Does it make sense for you to take that amount? In a lot of cases, it does not. It makes more sense to do these medium to shorter term loan solutions or these alternatives with unsecured term loans, secured term loans, and so forth. So you have to take that into account, and I'm going to leave more information on that down below. Payments stay the same for fixed rates, for fixed rate loans, because the interest rate is constant, very standard and reasonable. For variable rate loans, the lender can require a different payment amount when the interest rate changes. Existing borrowers can create an account in the SBA's Capital Access Financial System, or CAFS for short, to monitor their loan status and so forth. So I have more documentation here. Types of SBA 7A loans, let's get into that, and then we'll continue to move on here. I appreciate your time. At any point in time, if you have questions, please feel free to voice them down below in the description. Let me know. Have you tried the SBA 7A route? Have you been declined? Have you tried other private loan solutions? What are you currently looking for? But also go to the description on top of that and fill out that questionnaire if you haven't already. My email and all other information will be down below, such as my website and so forth. So maximum loan amount for the standard 7A, $5 million. Maximum SBA guarantee, 85% for loans up to 150,000 and 75% for loans greater than 150,000. Interest rate, lenders and borrowers can negotiate the interest rate, but it may not exceed the SBA maximum. So let's back up here, the maximum SBA guarantee percentage. So the lenders want to make sure that if in the case of a default, or in the case that you can't make your payments and so forth, that they can be guaranteed to a certain percentage of what they would receive, okay? So it's a way for them to back themselves up and say, hey, you defaulted, or this is the case, you tried to change banking activity, or this is what's happening, you're not making your payments. We have to find a way to guarantee what we would get approved up to in the case of defaults and so forth. Eligibility decision. Oh, one thing too, I want to back up. In a lot of cases, when people ask me, how much can I get approved for? It's very important with the SBA, we look at the credit and the credit history more so, and that you're in a profit. So you want to have at least 10%, if not 15 to 20% above in profit. So those are the two huge determining factors, going back to the credit and then going into the profitability. Those are the two huge main factors, 10%, or in a lot of cases, 15 to 20% plus. So you have to factor that into the equation. So lenders may not negotiate. We talked about that. Eligibility decision. Spoke a little bit about that. Revolving lines of credits are up to 10 years, permitted only under cap line submissions, see below. SBA turnaround time, 5 to 10 business days, in some cases 3 to 5 business days, and so forth. Forms, spoke about that earlier. Collateral, lenders are not required to take collateral for loans up to 225,000. For loans in excess of 350,000, the SBA requires that the lender collateralize the loan to the maximum extent possible up to the loan amount. If business fixed assets do not fully secure the loan, lender may include trading assets using 10% of the current book value for the calculation, and must take availability equity in the personal real estate, residential, and investment of the principals as collateral. Credit decision by the SBA qualified lenders may be granted delegated authority, PLP, to make credit decisions with the SBA review. There's also the SBA 7A small loan, which I won't get into all the details. I'll just kind of go through here, the list, because there's plenty of them. And I want to get through the other parts. So you can see the maximum loan amount up to 350,000, what it's guaranteed up to, similar turnaround times, collateral that's going to be asked for there, credit decision, the SBA Express up to 500,000, maximum SBA guarantee 50%. You see eligibility decisions made by the lender. Revolving lines of credits here are up to 7 years with maturity extensions permitted at the outset. Turnaround time, 36 hours, usually faster. Collateral. The Export Express up to 500,000. Faster SBA response time, 24 hours. And then you have the export working capital up to 5 million. Maximum SBA guarantee, similarly here, 90%. Revolving lines of credit, terms of 12 months or less, turnaround time 5 to 10 business days, SBA forms. And then you have the international trade, 5 million, and we'll quickly run through this. Veterans Advantage, cap lines. It's an umbrella program that helps small businesses meet their short-term and cyclical working capital needs. It features 4 lines: seasonal cap lines, contract cap line, builder's cap line, working capital line. So it depends on industry-wise, as well as the specific amount you can qualify for, what you would get. So you can see some of that here. And I'm going to quickly run through because I have more tabs open and I want to, for the sake of time here, but you can always rewind this and see what's on there. So now we have another one here. So I talked already about the eligibility. Here's just another tab that I wanted to go through. Who's ineligible? Financial business primarily engaged in the business of lending, such as banks, finance companies, payday lenders, some leasing companies, and factors. Pawn shops, although engaged in lending, may qualify in some circumstances. Businesses owned by developers and landlords that do not actively use or occupy the assets acquired for improved with the loan proceeds, except when the property is leased to the business at zero profit for the property's owners. Life insurance companies, huge one. A lot of people come to me for that. Businesses located in a foreign country, businesses in the U.S. owned by aliens may qualify. Businesses engaged in pyramid sale distribution plans, network marketers out there, be careful, where a participant's primary incentive is based on the sale made by an ever-increasing number of participants. Businesses deriving more than 1/3 of gross annual revenue from legal gambling activities, a huge one. that I've had people get disqualified for. Businesses engaged in an illegal activity, private clubs and businesses that limit number of memberships for reasons other than capacity, government-owned entities. And I'll leave a document of this down below so you can learn a little bit more if need be. It may not be, but you can also rewind back here to see this. Other factors, special considerations. Farms and agricultural businesses are eligible, but these applicants should first explore Farm Service Agency, FSA programs, or other alternatives, private loans, particularly if the applicant has prior existing relationship with FSA. So that's just saying it in the case of that. So a checklist, I pretty much already spoke about what you would need. Let's go into the terms. Loan amounts, spoke about that. And yeah, there are cases where you can get up to 350,000 and then even more. I'll get into some of those details in a moment. Maturity terms, 25 years for real estate, 10 years for equipment, 2 years of working capital for capital or inventory loan. It can even be up to 7 years. In some cases, if it's also an online banking solution, you may get somewhere between 2 to 5 years. So there's a benefit of this, but you don't always need the extended amount of time. I always talk to business owners and they go, well, no, not really. I just wanted a better payment. It doesn't work that way in a lot of cases. And you have to think about what is the benefit of you getting this funding? If it's going to increase your ROI, it's going to possibly, you're going to take and you're going to increase your bottom line by 20, 30, 40,000, et cetera. Then the repayment is going to be very little in factor to that. You can see a little bit more there. Interest rates. I'll let you take a good look there. Loan amounts. Prime rate in effect of the first business day of the month plus. You see the percentages there, how much would be happening. Percentage of guarantee. You see how that works. And then prohibited fees, prepayment penalties. For loans with a maturity of 15 years or longer, prepayment penalties apply when the borrower voluntarily prepays 25% or more of the outstanding balance of the loan. And there's more details in there. Eligibility requirements, spoke about that, special considerations, more or less. Ineligible business. All right, so let me go over here to this screen. So another circumstance where you could get between 250,000 to 5 million. You'd want to have a term length, or you'd get a term length between 5 to 25 years, as I more or less said. Minimum credit score for this specific one would be 680. There's some where you can get in with just a 650, but a 700 is much better, makes the process much smoother. 500,000 in annual revenue is required, must show at least 10% profit. But if not, with other cases, 15% to 20% is per lender basis too. And on industry-wise, time in business, 2 years. Cost of capital or interest can be 5% to 9%. Time to approve 3 to 5 days or 5 to 10 plus days, depending on what amount you're seeking and so forth, and your file. And then 1 to 3 months or so to fund. And I've seen cases like this be 6 months and above. So be careful, not always the best. Important details: requires strong credit history, requires profit on your taxes, no excessive business debt. Like I said earlier, certain industries are eligible. What you would require: SBA loan application, 12 months of bank statements, and not all the time will they ask for that. 2 years of business tax returns, sometimes it's 3+, 2 years of personal tax returns, sometimes again 3+, year-to-date financials, profit and loss, balance sheets, copy of a recent credit report. It's a huge one. So let me go over to this side here. This is one funding program. You can do it, or a lot of it we look at in-house and evaluating to see what you would get approved for before it goes through even extensive underwriting processes. We can get you a response and see. But this is one program that I recommend going through with Go Capital. And you can see a little bit of information there. Funding time, credit scores. No recent bankruptcies, tax liens, or foreclosures. Collateral may be required if loans are above 25,000. The business must be physically located in the U.S. What it can be used for, as you can see, we more or less spoke about in the past. And now let me go over here. There's another one for working capital loans through the Smart Biz program where you can get between $30,000 and $350,000. And you want to have 2 years in business with corresponding tax returns, for-profit business, not nonprofit here. Proceeds, working capital, debt refinance, equipment purchases. Individuals owning 20% or more of the business must be U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents. Individuals owning 20% or more business cannot work for SBA and have no felonies. The borrowing business must not have defaulted on any government-backed loans. So be careful of that. Other SBA loans. Good personal credit, minimum of 660. We can look at also about a 650, but 660 and above is better. 700 is best. Business credit score, this is liquid credit that we look at with FICO SBSS scores. And I won't get into all of those details. I'll try to have separate content for that. But you want to have at least a 155 or greater. If not, some of them are 160 and 165 and above. And that is a big determinant. If you're looking at getting something up to 350,000, in a lot of cases, we look at this FICO SBSS score. And in some cases, we can overlook it with stronger credit history and so forth. But for a lot of it, we're going to want to see that score. And it's very important with credit worthiness, not only personal credit, but you have a form of business credit established and you're building up your paydex scale. You have stuff that's reporting on your credit history, business credit history, consumer credit, etc. No bankruptcy in the past 3 years, no foreclosures in the past 3 years, no open tax liens or outstanding judgments, huge ones. Cash flow, 2 years of business and personal tax returns, year-to-date profit and loss and balance sheet, business debt schedule, 6 months recent bank statements. You can see there, information, okay. Timeline to funding, usually takes 4 to 6 weeks to fund, and bank term loans average 2 weeks, so they have a bank term loan solution. So if you're looking at an alternative, you're like, I don't qualify for this, or I'm looking for an alternative where I can get faster funding and I don't want to go through all this because I don't think I'll qualify, not sufficient collateral, or I don't want to provide that collateral, equity, etc., then they have term loan solutions through the bank. They work with banks. So if you possibly didn't qualify for a physical banking location, this may not work entirely if you try to do a bank term loan solution, but they are much faster. Interest rates can be between 6% to about 29, 26% or so, 27% in that range. So I'll try to leave a video for Smart Biz down below so you can go ahead and take a look at that. So we're getting towards the conclusion. Let me look through my tabs over here to make sure I covered everything. Okay. So there's also the SBA 504 programs. I may have a separate video for this, but I'll just try to leave it here. It provides long-term fixed rate financing up to $5 million for major fixed assets that promote business growth and job creation. 504 loans are available through certified development companies, CDCs, SBA's community-based partners who regulate nonprofits and promote economic development within their communities. CDCs are certified and regulated by the SBA. Are you eligible? Operate as for-profit company in the United States or its possessions, have a tangible net worth of less than 15 million, have an average net income of less than 5 million after federal income taxes for the 2 years preceding your application. Here are some other general eligibility standards. Loans cannot be made to businesses engaged in nonprofit, passive, or speculative activities. How do you use it? It can be used for a range of purposes, existing buildings or lands. This is more considered a real estate loan, new facilities, long-term machinery and equipment, or the improvement or modernization of land, streets, utilities, parking lots, and landscaping. Existing facilities. A 504 loan cannot be used for working capital or inventory, so that shuts it off. That's where it separates itself from the SBA 7A loan. Consolidating, repaying, or refinancing your debts, speculation or investment in rental real estate. So for those investment purposes, it will not work. How do you pay it back? Both 10 and 20-year maturity terms available, interest rates, as you can see there, existing borrowers, and I have a little bit of information that I want to cover about that in this program. So SBA loan features, usually it's up to 10 million, terms 10 to 20 years or so. Funding time 30 to 60 days can be, and you can see what we just spoke about a little bit earlier there. And we already covered most of what it entails. CDC/504 loans are popular among businesses that are planning to buy or build owner-occupied commercial properties. However, these businesses have to occupy at least 51% of the commercial building to be considered for that. So all in all, I believe I've covered everything to the extent that I could. And I appreciate your time and energy. I know it's very important. I'm kind of tired. I'm not going to go into lie. But you have the understanding of what you need to qualify for an SBA 7A loan. You can come in with 400,000. And there are these, by the way, hybrid SBA loans that I'll try to link more information to down below, where we can qualify you for like a merchant cash advance, a term loan, or a line of credit. And in the meantime, evaluate you for the SBA loan. So in the meantime, when you submit that application, we can see, okay, we can get you approved for a line of credit or merchant cash advance, this term loan, all or one, or so forth. And in the meantime, you'll be getting a look at your SBA loan application. So even if you didn't qualify, you have this option on the table. Or even if you did qualify, we can add that on top of what you're already getting over here, or go separately away from that. But it's not always going to be the best for you, especially if you're needing a lump sum that maybe it's the purchase of an existing business, for example, and you need a certain amount. You can't take a little bit and then come back for more, or there's other cases. But just to recap again, understand what your business is needing. That's not an SBA 7A loan that's always the best, especially the long process documentation. And in that time, you could have already gotten funding with the revenue-based loan, a term loan of 1 to 2 years, 2 to 10 years, unsecured term loans, or secured term loans with the right collateral, receivables, unpaid invoices, et cetera, to give up. And it may be a little bit of more of a medium to higher rates, but at the end of the day, what you have to look at is, do I qualify for traditional banking, online banking, these SBA loans? Oh no, well, then I have these private money loans, or do I go the back route and I try to get 0% interest for 6 to 18 months in business credit cards? If you even qualify, you have to have strong credit, business credit building to get you access to funding on the back end, and so forth. So many ways, but you have to look at the benefit. Does your benefit exceed the repayment? And if it does, and it makes sense to move forward, then you do so. If it doesn't, you'll never justify it. And it'll always be a race for you for the lowest price, because you're just trying to survive, or you're being very unrealistic about how all of this works. So that'll be everything from myself. Please refer to this questionnaire if you haven't filled it out yet. And all information will be down below in the description for you to go ahead and get started. And for any questions, comments, or concerns, please voice them for me down below in the description. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. And click that bell notification icon so you do not miss any future videos I will be coming out with, any updates. If you got value out of it, please give it a thumbs up. Share with others who you feel will get value out of it. If it's a complete stranger, friends, family, and so forth. That is all for now. Thank you. Bye.